Hey guys, welcome to my channel. And today, I'm actually going to be doing a detailed review of the Arcade1Up Killer Instinct arcade cabinet. So, this is actually a 3/4 version of the original arcade that you probably would have seen in the 90s. And what I wanted to do in this video is just kind of go over both the build for this, how long it took. We'll go over some of the functions, we'll take a look at some of the games, and I'll just kind of give you my overall thoughts on this particular machine. So I have several other Arcade1Ups here. I even have another one over in our game room. But this is the newest one that I was able to acquire here to add to my addition of arcades, and overall in terms of the actual build itself, I'm very happy with this. This took roughly about 2 hours. Not really going too fast to assemble it with my wife. We kind of just worked on it together. We actually started with the riser. You can see this is like one of the older legacy cabinets here from Mortal Kombat in one of these stock factory Arcade1Up risers. This is one from the Atari Star Wars. And as you can see, a little more detailed, they went with a very generic design on this, simply just using the Rare logo on the base. And then on the kick plate, you do have kind of this molded coin door to make a realistic look of what this would have looked like on the real arcades. And then it also mentions Killer Instinct 2, and this comes with Battletoads. You additionally have this cool Killer Instinct logo that goes across here. On some of the older cabinets, like you can see here, there's just simply no graphics on like this older Mortal Kombat cab. So they've obviously taken improvements into account with these newer cabs. You do have a light-up marquee. I'll go ahead and actually boot this up. One of the cool things they also added with this particular cab is you have this LED light bar that goes across, and this really, shines into the entire piece here, and it allows for you to change between different colors. So right now, this is on the cycle mode, but you can actually hit a button that's down over here, and this will simply either go off, or you can rotate between specific colors, and just leave those on static. So overall, I think that's a really cool effect for this. It looks awesome when everything is like really dark in here. Maybe you're having an event, something like that. People over. Pretty standard on like the joysticks, I would say. Coming from something like this older original Mortal Kombat cab, they've definitely made improvements to the feel of the joysticks. You do have these nice bars here as well that prevent, if you were to have a spill or crumbs or anything like that, it's not going to damage anything. By default, they give you a sticker here for, so this is basically what you use for selecting everything you have, both your start buttons for 1 and 2, you have a live button. So this actually has Wi-Fi connectivity, so you can actually go online and play against other people running the same cabinets. Of course, you have all your standard attacks, quick, medium, fierce, for both high and low, and there's generally enough room here that you could have 2 people playing without too much issue. I had my cabinets pretty close together here, but the Star Wars one is 1 player. So we just recently had a party and there were a lot of little kids as well as adults playing these games, and nobody really had any complaints about whether or not this was going to work or not. In terms of volume here, I had this set all the way low, but this goes up 15 increments. When you're at about 10, this is actually pretty good, and if you start to go up to like 15, you do get a little bit of like static and kind of, noise coming from this. You can easily browse between Killer Instinct 1, 2, and then they have the Battletoads arcade game. You can also go into the bonus games, and this allows you to check out some of those 16-bit versions of older, Battletoads games from like the Genesis and things like that. It's easy enough to jump out of any of these. I'm actually going to reset this. You simply hold down the start button and this will kick you all the way back to the main screen. You can also reset the games by simply holding down the player to start, and that will just reset the game itself. But yeah, here are the bonus games. So you have the Battletoads 8-bit, the 16-bit. And then if you go back, you have Killer Instinct 1, 2, and then the arcade Battletoad. So essentially, it comes with 5 games. We'll load into Killer Instinct 1. As you go to load into a game, you can see it does give you a layout of the controls, everything to be expecting here. And once we hit start, this essentially just loads up an emulated version of the 1994 arcade game, and the sound on this is pretty good. There's no included subwoofer or anything like that. They don't typically do that with the Arcade1Ups, but overall, This looks pretty good. You do have a few options as well that you can mess around with. I'm just gonna jump into a game, and of course, this may be a little bit tough to play with one hand, but sound quality and everything looks pretty good. I'll jump out of this just to give you an idea, but you also can go into these settings here and you can basically switch difficulty levels. You could change like different things like finishing moves, display warnings, the ROM version that's being used, whether or not we're online, and then you also have the scanline setting. So this is something that's kind of cool. You can actually do like a CRT style, so it would give it more of a realistic effect as to what you would have originally seen. And you've got a few other different various settings here you can kind of mess around with. So overall, I'm pretty happy with this cab. I really love the look of it. You've got the Killer Instinct Marquee up top there, and then of course, you also have this really cool graphic that emulates the original, 90s arcade. So definitely is like nice to show off. One thing I thought was interesting about the way they had this set up, and I believe the Star Wars one is similar. It basically is separate pieces. Well, like this one is all one piece, but you can see on the Killer Instinct one that it's actually a separate piece here on the bottom. So ultimately tied together pretty well. I didn't have any issues assembling anything or getting anything to function. One thing that you can always look into as well with these cabs is installing like an aftermarket board to potentially put in like a Raspberry Pi and even load more games onto it. But I'm probably going to leave this one stock because of the fact that you have all the online functionality, and you would lose that if you decided to do that. So overall, very, very happy with this cab, and definitely an awesome tribute to an older 90s classic that I remember playing in the arcades as a kid. Anyway, thanks for checking out my video review. Hopefully found this helpful, and I will talk to you later.